Hey guys, wInevitable here with another hero guide. We are taking a look at Nazeebo, the ranged specialist from the Diablo universe today. He is a lot of fun. He's a pretty cool hero. He is also very popular right now in the competitive meta with a lot of the changes in the Jaina patch. We're seeing a ton of Nazeebo now, if he's not outright banned. So very viable right now. I believe he's always probably been viable. Just depends on the comps. He's a unique hero too, and a lot of fun. I love playing him. Whenever I play him, I'm in the zone, and we'll get into that in a little bit when we talk about the build. Now, this is also a more of a team comp. More of a team fighting kind of style, a PvP player, build rather, if you will, versus the PvE style. We could actually maybe come back to Nazeebo in the future and do a second guide on him, more of a Merc Lord taking camps jungling style build. So if you're looking for that, this is unfortunately not the video. It's more of a build for team fighting PvP, more of a competitive 5v5 kind of style matchup. Still, he can jungle really well and take camps really well even with this because of his abilities. And he does dish out a ton of damage, so he's a lot of fun. But let's talk about his statistics a little bit. I've pulled up the character screen here. Of course, you can always pull this panel up in game by tapping C to bring that out. Of course, it's very useful to check this out, and you can do it anytime in a game. His hit points, you can see 740. It's the lowest of a specialist outside of a Murky or an Abathur. And it's behind a couple assassins early game like a Zeratul, Kerrigan, and Illidan will all have more hit points than him early game. But he scales really well late game, especially with this build if you play him correctly. Now he's going to be his base hit points will be still low, at least for the lowest of the specialists, his base health pool. Just the base, but we're going to get into that a little bit later because he can be very tanky with the talent Death Ritual, which we'll talk about with the build. His health regen is kind of low too as well. It's not going to blow anybody away. Early game it's really low. It gets better late game. And his attacks are decent. It's right between a Raynor and a Jaina as far as his attack damage at 41, and it goes up 8 per level, so he's got about 193 at level 20, which is a good chunk of damage. Of course, his trait also, we talk about that really fast, is Voodoo Ritual. And this actually adds some extra damage to those attacks and to his abilities. So any ability or attack damage, whenever he hits an enemy, it will add an additional amount of poison damage over 4 seconds. You can see at level 1 it's 24. And that is going to, of course, scale up. Looking at this, that's 4 more per level. So it's 100 damage over 4 seconds at level 20. And it's useful, very useful for clearing waves, for example. Also, if a poison enemy dies, hero, minion, whatever, if it dies, he gets 2% health and 1% mana back, just with the basic trait. There's a talent, Death Ritual, which we'll show, here, bring it up, show this off with the build, where he actually will gain a permanent 5 health and 3 mana whenever that happens, whenever a minion dies under Voodoo Ritual. So you can see with this build, if you are getting what's called stacks with the Death Ritual here, if you're killing lane minions, and getting the last, it's kind of like last hitting. If you get the last hit on them with this talent, you can build up 100, 200, even 300 stacks in a very long game where you're getting a lot of stacks, a lot of kills on minions. And, 100 stacks, for example, is an extra 500 health, 300 mana, and that's going to boost him up. He's going to be incredibly tanky. And I think it's, in a bad game, you'll probably get 100, or maybe a little bit less in a very short game. But generally, you can go well above 100 stacks, and even, like I said, hit 200. And in a very long, intense game, you might see 300. It does only work on lane minions right now. It used to work on other minions as well, like I think the goals in Haunted Mines, but they did change that. So you can see he's got that trait, and it really encourages kind of a last hitting playstyle with him. You don't have to get the last hit because it is poison damage over 4 seconds, but you do want to hit them very close to the end of their lifespan, the lane minions, so that you do have the poison on them when they die. And it lasts for 4 seconds, so if you hit them within 4 seconds of their death, you get the stack. And it works on here. You don't get the stacks for heroes, but you will regenerate health and mana from like a hero kill as well. So his Q, pretty cool, is you launch these things called corpse spiders. You can see the little target here. You drop that. These little caskets, like from Diablo, come out, and then the spiders are running around. Those will attack enemies. It deals base damage when you launch the Q, 48 damage, and you create 3 spiders. The spiders will then deal 11 damage, and they last for 4 seconds. It's a 10-second cooldown, the same as his E, and the cost is 60 mana, whereas the E is like 55. The W is, of course, the most intensive ability at 70 mana and a 14-second cooldown. So kind of long cooldowns on these abilities. So the W is Zombie Wall. You can see it's very similar. I believe the corpse spiders can be thrown pretty far. W, the radius is a little bit less. You can see it's a circle. It creates a zombie wall. These guys have hit points, and then will also do damage to enemies within a melee range. Now, it's not a lot of damage. It's only, I think their hit points are around 100 at level 1. It goes up to like 400 hit points. Not a ton, and the damage is 18 going up to 58. It lasts for 3 seconds, so it's really not about the damage, not about, I mean, the damage helps, but it's more about that little bit of CC you can get on somebody. You throw this down, and also if you accidentally catch an allied hero, a second hit of the W will retract it early. Just like with the Void Prison for Zeratul, where a second touch of the R key can retract a Void Prison that you've miscast, you can do the same thing with the Zombie Wall. His E, the Plague Toads, is a cone ability, like so. And when you cast these, you get 5 little toads that hop out and will explode. Now, if they make contacts with enemies before like the end of the cone, they will, the end of their range, they will actually explode. They're dealing damage 38 at level 1. It scales up a bit to 190 at level 20. So, and then of course, remember, you're getting poison damage on top of all of these abilities if you hit an enemy with them. So that poison damage, is kind of a sleeper, and he can do quite a bit of damage with all of these abilities, especially if you zombie wall someone and then launch the spiders and the toads on them. And of course, if you get up close and launch the toads, like so, if I throw the E from back here, it's only going to hit, like, they didn't really even hit the tower, but if I walk up and I throw an E out here, all those toads would hit. Like if this was a hero, they would have hit the hero. So you can stack damage that way. Now, he's got a couple heroics. We'll go ahead and show off one that's more viable for like a jungling kind of Merc Lord build, the Gargantuan, and then we'll talk about his other one, Ravenous Spirit. So let's see, we'll pick some talents here, and we'll talk about these, of course, with the full build. Gargantuan, we're not going to use this one. It's actually a summon. You can see the radius here, and you actually bring out. Let's show this off against some minions. It's got a ton of health, almost as much health as a hero. It's 1400 at level 10, and base 1400. So it's like 140 per level. You're talking level 20. It's got 4200 hit points. It slows enemies within a certain distance, and it can actually deal damage to minions. Lasts for 20 seconds. So here we go. That is the Gargantuan. You can see the health pool. It's going up against Arthas. And if we want to throw off like a zombie wall here, and then we'll drop some spiders in there with that, and go in here, and you can see the poison damage shows up on the health bars here. Now I do have, for example, 2 stacks. Health bonus at 10, mana bonus 9, and you can see I'm getting stacks. So if I attack this guy, I just got a stack from that. And the spiders will actually chase people for as long as they're up. You can see there's a bit of a delay on the zombie wall, so it doesn't happen immediately. You kind of have to time that out really well to land those against a mobile target. It's against an immobile target like a sieged up tank, it's really awesome to use, and can be a lot of fun for catching people that are kind of like locked down, they can't move, and then if they don't have an escape, you can vault. I should say that you can vault through this. Like with Ivala, you could dash with the Tychus, you could blink as a Zeratul, obviously, so you want to use this against heroes without an escape, unless you're trying to force an escape on them to make them use their dash. It's definitely better against, like, say, a Brightwing who can't. A Brightwing could Z, like a phase shift, but still, that's a big cooldown that they just burned for it. So that's this heroic. We've talked about the abilities, talked about his. You can see the health at level 10 is 2100. It's kind of low, but we do have, what, 7 stacks at this point. So if we reset the level, it'll reset the stacks back to base 1. And we'll talk about the talents here. Death Ritual, as we've said, is going to be the go-to on level 1 all the time for this build. We're not going to look at any other talent. Always Death Ritual, because when you're last hitting, you're getting that extra health and mana, and
he can be insanely tanky late game. And not to mention that extra mana too is going to be useful when you're casting, you know, your Qs, WZs, but also having enough for your Ravenous Spirit all in level 10. So we take Death Ritual, and the thing is, when you take this talent, you have to actively get last hits. It's not, now I said it's a 4-second poison, so it doesn't have to be an actual last hit for anyone used to last hitting. But it's more than just being in the area when the minions die, which is how most people get XP. From minions, you know, you don't have to kill them, you just have to be in the area when they die to get the experience. So you actually do have to time it out and watch when the minions are dying and make sure you've got the poison on them. And it, you know, as I said, it lasts for 4 seconds, but do be cognizant of that and make sure that you're getting this stacks to get the full potential out of this build. Level 4, go ahead and look at that. There's 2 options here. The go-to is going to be Gathering Power. It's a generic talent, gives you 8% ability power base and 2% for each takedown that you get an enemy hero that you've contributed to their death. So now those stacks do reset if you do happen to die. And that's the one reason why you might consider Envenom here, which is a generic poison talent. You deal 350 damage over 6 seconds. That damage does scale a little bit, so it goes up later in the game. Now this is more viable when you are going to die a lot, and you can't keep your stacks up. You don't have a tank for some reason in your solo queue. You don't have a healer. They have like a Zeratul and a Nova and an Illidan, and those guys are just all over you. You know, all over you. Just all day. So you know. I was trying to think of an analogy to make there, but I couldn't. So it's, you know, the go-to if you're having trouble surviving. Put it that way. You can try this out. But ideally, you want to go with Gathering Power because, and this is really, really good for your Ravenous Spirits, your heroic that you're going to use on 10. And of course, it also adds to your Qs and your Es and your Ws. So they'll do, you know, a little bit more damage. I generally don't take Envenom. I'm just, even against, like, you know, like I said, those other heroes, you just have to learn good positioning and be safe and not die. You will die sometimes and you'll give up stacks, but you still get the base 8%, which is good. Now, level 7, there's a few choices here that you can go with, depending on, you know, what you really need for your team. The big one is Gidbin. Now, this will increase the explosion area of your Plague Toads. So we throw out the Toads. Let's watch their explosion, and then we'll take the Gidbin. You can see how they exploded. So we clear the cooldowns, we throw out another set of Toads. And, you know, it was a little bit bigger. Not a ton. But it contributes a little bit. It also increases the duration of your other non-heroic abilities, including Voodoo Ritual, by 25%. So you're going to get, instead of 4-second poison, it's now a 5-second poison. That's more damage. The Toads, actually, I believe, I guess they run farther. The spiders last an extra second, so it's 5 seconds. The zombie wall lasts almost 4 full seconds. Really cool to get that extra duration, and also the extra poison is just going to help you get a little bit more damage out. So this is your go-to. This is what you want to take in most cases. The other 2 you can consider, depending on the map, the comps. There's Mule, which is these are both generic talents that we're looking at. Mule and Clairvoyance are the 2. Mule is good if you just need to repair your structures on, I don't know if you're against a push comp, maybe like an Azmodan, Abathur, Gazlo, somebody that's pushing really hard and doing a lot of damage to your buildings. You need to repair them. On Haunted Mines, a Mule can be good. A Mule can always be good if your team has a good amount of damage, enough damage to get the job done, and you don't need that extra boost from the Gidbin. If you have a couple assassins, like you have 2 ranged assassins, or you know, even 2 or 3 just high damage heroes that can also put out a good amount of DPS in team fights, and you don't need the Gidbin, then a Mule isn't a bad choice on him because of that repair. Mules are pretty good on the right maps. You know, like against the Golem on Haunted Mines, it can save your structures and prevent that Golem from getting to your core as fast as it normally would. Clairvoyance is good if you need map awareness for people. You know, if you just need to be able to scout the enemy team, if they are ganking a lot and you want that Clairvoyance to kind of scout them out and see where they are. You don't see it as much, but it's certainly viable. And sometimes you'll see even occasionally a Merc Lord here, which gives the siege camps and the bruiser camps, when you cap them, you have to be on the cap point. When you capture the Merc camp, they will get, you know, you can see the stats. 50% increased damage for the camp, the siege giants, and 50% increased health on the bruisers. This is a pretty cool talent. You do have to be there when you take the camp, which is the drawback, but they do get extra pushing power. So occasionally you'll see this, and sometimes like on what is it, Dragonshire, you know, some kind of a camp with where the Merc camps are pretty important. Dragonshire, Garden of Terror, maybe. Even Blackheart's Bay, it could be usable, or Cursed Hollow, I guess. I wouldn't probably use it on Haunted Mines, really, but thinking about it, actually, using this against a Grave Golem, no, I'd probably rather have Mule on Haunted Mines. But just, you know, just so you know, occasionally you'll see a Merc Lord as well. But I like Gidbin, and occasionally a Mule is what else I would go with. So that's like your big varieties on level 7. You know, you get a couple choices. Level 10, you're always going to go with Ravenous Spirit. This summons a spirit for 8 seconds. It is something you can move. It's a channeled ability, so you cannot move while you're using this. You cannot. You can move the spirit, though. And it can be interrupted, and it will go on the full cooldown if it is interrupted. Now, you deal damage in an area for 230 damage per second. That's, you know, over 8 seconds. A lot of damage if you get a good Ravenous Spirit off. Just to show it off real fast, you can see the cast range there. That is the spirit, and you can see how I'm moving it. You can move it pretty far. And it's dealing damage in that area. So in a team fight, you can get multiple heroes with this. If they're like CC'd and locked down and they can't interrupt you, you're going to lead in hero damage a lot. You know, unless you're being taken out of the fight early, a Nazeebo is generally, with good Ravenous Spirit hits, is going to lead in hero damage in a game. And siege damage a lot of the time too, because of these abilities. Now, 13, there's a couple choices here as well. This depends on the team you're facing, what you're going up against. The two big ones are Sprint, which is the increased move speed, 75% for 3 seconds, and then Rewind, which resets your basic ability cooldowns. Generally, Rewind I think is the better one here, if you can get away with it, because you'll get the extra spiders, the extra toes, but also a second zombie wall. And so you can put out a ton of damage in a short amount of time, and you can lock somebody down for almost 8 seconds if they don't have a way to get through the wall. So this is generally good to get more damage. Now, if there's a couple diving heroes on the enemy team with good engage, Sonya, Zeratul, Illidan, people that can leap into the fight, a Muradin, that can kind of get in and stick on you. Muradin I wouldn't really be as scared of, but like a Zeratul and Illidan, a Nova even, maybe, you know, but somebody that's going to get in your face and kill you really quickly, that you need the sprint to get away from them. This is, you know, if you need a good escape, take Sprint. Rewind, though, is ideal because you get that extra damage out of it. And you sometimes see a Toads of Huge's talent here on level 13. The Toads get an extra 10% damage each time they hop. I don't know how I feel about that. I've seen it taken a few times in competitive matches, but I feel like I'd rather have the Rewind. Now, it's not going to be, the Rewind here isn't as important as it is on some heroes, where they really get a huge benefit out of it, like a Falstad. Or, you know, who's the other one? Muradin takes Rewind now. It's not as important, like I said, on Nazeebo. So Sprint's all right here if you want to take that, especially as you're getting used to playing him, because he does not have an escape. You see, he doesn't, you know, he doesn't, and he has to mount up just like everybody else. So we'll take, we can show off the Sprint. I don't think I've shown that off before in a video. Level 16, the big one here to go with is going to be Specialized Toxin. The damage dealt to heroes from Voodoo Ritual is increased by 200%. Okay, so the damage right now, we're at level 16, is going to be 105 damage over 5 seconds. So that's 525 damage, right? You increase that by 200%, you know, that's a lot. It's a lot of damage. What did I say, 525? So do the math. Was that 1,575 over 5 seconds? That's a lot of damage, actually. I almost want to check the math on that. I think that might be exaggerating, but it's a lot more with the Voodoo Ritual if they're poisoned. And that poison, like I said, is a sleeper. Like, people will not realize how much damage they're taking because it's over time. It's gradual, and it really helps. Stone Skin, if you're just getting obliterated and bursted really quickly, could be a good choice here, I guess. But I've never taken it. I always go with Specialized Toxin just for that upgrade on the damage. And these aren't these kind of increase your abilities here. You get like spiders with the when the toads explode, they create spiders, and here the spiders will actually leap and do extra damage. They're not bad. You get more damage out of them, but I feel like just for this build, focusing more on the team fights and winning those, Specialized Toxin is the go-to choice. And level 20, generally you're going to take the Heroic upgrade. Annihilating Spirit increases the range by 50%.
and the move speed by 30%. Now, if we look at R right now, you can see we'll stand on like the little circle here. I can cast just outside of my gate. If I take this upgrade, right? Now, from like right here, it's all the way out here. And this is really critical because with the Nazeebo, you need good positioning in team fights. As I said, it's a channeled ability for 8 seconds. You can be interrupted. So if you cast this, you use your heroic, and then you're interrupted right away, you don't get anything out of it. It was a waste, and you're on a huge cooldown of, 90 seconds. So you ideally will want to be behind like some barrier, and you can cast it like you could stand, like if this was an area I could walk, I could stand down here and cast it right here if there's a team fight going on over here. And we'll show this off in a live setting to really get you a better glimpse of it, but like I can cast over this wall. You want to have something between you and the enemy. At the very least, you want to be as far back as possible. If there's nothing to hide behind, at least be far away from the fight. And you can even actually, like if the team fight is over here, I could cast the spirit here and walk it into the team fight, just so that I am not interrupted by like a Sonya leap or a Murden dwarf tossing in and then launching a hammer at me. So that's why we take that. You also get the extra move speed, so it's faster. It can chase people down. It's pretty cool. So that's the build. I'm going to show it off a little bit. This probably just get into the live setting to show things off because we did show the abilities off, but we can show you what the spirit does if we throw this down on an Arthas. And what something funny you can do is you can actually zombie wall somebody in, and then they have to break through the zombie wall while they're getting eaten by this. And you can see the chase potential on that. A ton of damage just from that one spirit. Now imagine if you're hitting 2 or 3 people with it, right? And another cool trick that is worth showing off for more experienced Nazeebo players is, say the enemy team has a hook, like a Stitches kind of thing, or some kind of interrupt. What you can do is actually cast a zombie wall on yourself, and then abilities are going to hit the zombie wall first and kill the... I actually have to chase the Arthas here. They'll actually hit the zombie wall, so I'm protected, and it lasts, with the upgrade for almost 4 full seconds, which is about half the cast time. And that just gives you almost 4 full seconds. I trapped Malfurion in here, where you can safely cast that Ravenous Spirit without being interrupted. This was actually like it's been known, and people have, like, Nazeebo players know that and know to use that. But it was popular. Was it, I think, Jinte with Cloud9 Vortex. Use that in like a competitive match, and that's when we're like, oh yeah, this is really cool, we can do this, and it was really popularized from that. But it was something that was being used for a long time prior to that. It's just something to note that you can do if you don't have anything to hide behind, or you want to protect yourself from like a hook from the Stitches or somebody jumping in that would be throwing a stun at you. It's really cool to use that. Other than that, save your sprint for when you need to escape. Of course, if there's a team fight happening and you need to sprint back, to safety, and then put the zombie wall up and then throw the Ravenous Spirit down, that is also viable as well. Of course, if you have rewind, you'll have 2 zombie walls. And I think that does most of it. We'll just go ahead and jump into a game. You can see, if you watch here, you can actually use zombie wall to stop a lane and from pushing, to slow the minions down. They'll actually attack the zombies. So that can freeze a lane while you deal damage with your spiders and your toads. And he's got a ton of siege potential. You can also use zombie walls on structures. It will fit around a fort if you choose to use it that way. And he does a ton of damage to buildings with his abilities, just like most specialists will. So he's really good at pushing lanes. And I believe the Ravenous Spirit will even damage minions. Probably not the best use of it here, but we will get a kill. So who's complaining, right? That's an Arthas dead. And then almost getting back for the building. So pretty cool hero, a lot of fun to play, like I said. And because of that stacks, getting your stacks, you're kind of like in a zone, a last hitting zone for the early game, which is pretty cool. Just don't get ganked because you do not have an escape until you get that sprint. You can use the zombie wall to peel for yourself in a sense, but it's not the best escape out there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Gonna go ahead and get to another video, but I'll see you guys soon.